That's fine.
It's not in phone mode, but we can say it.
Okay, that's fine. Just wanted to be sure that you could see the screen. I think technically we had some issues trying to have you get to see the screen in the
Nobody
screen.
I thought the meeting time is 7 o'clock. Please, let's start now.
All right, thank you so much once again. My name is Engineer Faith Nuate, and the moderator has earlier introduced me by experience and certification. It's a pleasure having to share this knowledge with you. So briefly, we'll be looking at working at height. That's fine. Just wanted to be sure. Yeah, you can see the screen into working at heights. First and foremost, technically, we have the indulgence use trying to have you get to see the screen in
Nobody I thought the meeting time is 7 o'clock. Please, let's start now.
All right, thank you so much. Hidden Consult is a professional training and consulting company. As earlier introduced, we offer courses and international certification on quality, quality assurance and quality control. Having to share occupational health and safety. We'll be looking at levels 1, 2, and 3 of safety. That's fine. We have efficiency. Also offer human resource management courses. Looking at heights. First and foremost, technical international standardization organizations as ISO 9001 which is quality management system. Also offer Hidden Consult is a professional training 2015 consulting which implements environmental management offer courses and also ISO certified 2018 quality occupational health and safety management system. And we offer health certifications for organizations which is to be ISO certified. And then we also do other consultancy and services, run short courses for organization. We conduct drills, safety drills for organization, and we also supply safety and do supply and installation of safety equipment. All right, so we have a head office here in Port Harcourt, and we also have a branch office in Lagos and Abuja. All right, that being said, so for this course, I would just want us to unlearn to relearn. Obviously, just like the chairman earlier stated in his remark, that these are this work at height is what you do. It's the activities you carry out in the course of your job almost every day on field, or even sometimes at home. But you now need to first unlearn what you already know to enable you take in more information. So we'll be looking at what is work at height. What do we mean when we talk about work at height? I understand we might also have some other participants that might not basically be carrying out their official duties by working at height. Okay, so you also need to appreciate the fact that falls from height also occurs anywhere, even on the ground. So we say work at height, it's any activity where the potential of fall exists. When we talk about work at height, most times people feel, oh, it has to be somebody who is working at a particular height, somebody who works on a ladder, somebody who works on a scaffold, somebody who works using a rope access to a platform. To interest you to know that even while you walk on the ground, there is also every tendency for you to fall. And obviously, falling means you are not on the same level. That's why there is a fall. So you can also experience a fall from heights, even while you walk on the ground. Okay, so let's just look at some statistics that has been taken. I think we have some good scholars. We have one Adekule and Umana and Adewale who did a research. They did a research for construction workplace. Basically, I think Lagos was used as the case study, and this research was done between 2001 and 2015. So, which is apparently 14 years. And we're able to come up with these very critical findings and data. Now, you will see it from our charts that we have exposure to harmful substances. Now, these are deaths that occurred in the course of construction activities in Lagos between this period of time. Now, so this chart you're seeing has to do with analytical study of casualties in the construction industry. Yeah, in Nigeria, but Lagos was used as the case study. We say exposure to harmful substances. We recorded 248 casualties. Contact with objects and equipment, we recorded 251. Now, transportation accidents, we had 199. The casualties and violent acts was just as a case study. Why exposure to harmful substances was 34. Then the mother of recorded 248 casualties. Recorded 602 casualties and equipment. Now we had 602 casualties. Now transportation accidents, other incidents, 199 in the casualties industry and violent the year 2005 for case study 2005 fires and harmful substances 34. This statistics was only taken in Lagos. In Lagos, so if we want to extrapolate or we want to relate it to other states that is also fast developing, you will agree with among that what we should be recording between 2001 and 2015 should be going up to, if not 25,000, but also 4,000. When you go around the recipe states, including the statistics, only the recording that in Lagos, so statistics we have gathered. Now, this is just to emphasize to you that work at height or falls from height is the major cause of workplace death. Falls from height is the major cause in going up to 25,000. So it is very important when you go around very discussion on the safety precautions and statistics we have gathered. If you want to just to emphasize from to you that work at height or falls from height is the major cause. Now, working at height workplace activities we say can include is when we are in a harness, going up to in any platform, or the using of ladders, very demonstrating a mobile elevated platform. Also want to emphasize that work at height incident. Now, also working on scaffold. Now, you are working at height conventional medium we say can include when we are in a harness on the side or basically Now, what are the risks associated with work at height? Now, unguarded platforms or openings leading to falls. Unguarded platforms or opening leading to falls. Now, this could result to a fall from height. Now, this could result to several kinds of injuries. And the most important and the last type that nobody wished for, it could lead to death. Now, unstable grounds, a stable ground condition leading to structural collapse. Unstable ground condition leading to structural collapse is also one of the major risks associated with falling from heights. Then unsecured tools, equipment on lifts or walking platforms. Now, you can also have your equipment or your tools that also falls from height and can also result to major injuries. And we'll also get to see how to prevent them as we progress. Now, unauthorized access. Now, unauthorized access to a work area where you are exposed to either a falling object or falls. It is also a major risk that could lead to injuries resulting to that also falls from height can also result to lack of barricading leading to people under suspended loads. A lack of barricading leading to people walking under suspended loads. Now, obviously, when you have a construction workplace or when you have a workplace where one of the hazards that must have been identified is either falls from height or falling objects. Now, you are expected to barricade, to restrict access. You restrict access to such workplace. Now, as we progress, we'll get to see what should be the required or ideal radius in which you are to barricade access or to restrict access, just to prevent fall from height or falling objects. Okay, we also have the failure of lifting equipment. Now, failure of lifting equipment, for example, using your forklift, or using any equipment in transporting an object, or using any equipment in moving an object from ground level to a height. Failure from this equipment will lead to falling tools or objects that could result to a very serious injury or even damage to properties. So it is very important we also note that the overhead power lines or electrical conductors. Now, you know, when we talk about power lines or electrical conductors, now we know we cannot overemphasize the related issues relating to electricity. Now, while working at height, you know that one of the major incidents that occurs if you come in contact with a lifeline, 99% is death. 99% is death. I think sometimes last year we had an experience where 5 workers were working trying to mount a billboard stand. So I think somewhere around Rumusi, some people cycled, and the equipment they are trying to mount came in contact with an overhead power line. And behold, they all got electrocuted. Now, the sequence of that electrocution, I can't tell. If one got electrocuted and the other was trying to help and also got electrocuted, I don't know. Or if they were all electrocuted at the same time. Now, but the most important thing there was an overhead power line that was not put into consideration when they started their job. The proper risk assessment was not carried out for them to assess what could become a problem to them. But at the end of the day, overhead power line consumed these 5 lives, and they died at the spot, not even in the medium or means of transporting them to the hospital. They all died at the spot. I think most of us must have heard of it sometimes last year. So traffic, walk near roads, risk of persons being struck by moving objects. It's also a major risk when we talk about falls. Remember, we said falls does not only occur when you walk at height, even on the ground floor, you can also experience a fall. Now, lack of training and competency leading to injury and fatality. Now, it is very important that if you must carry out any activity, especially at height, you must have been trained. Now, training in this case is not a training for the job you want to do, but the training for you to have the ability to walk at height. Now, walking at height requires a skill. Yes, you could be an electrician. Yes, you could be a carpenter. Yes, you could be a bricklayer, but that is for your skill. But when walking at height, you also require training to gain the ability to walk at height. Now, this is not training for you to do electrical work well, but rather it is a training for you to be able to do your electrical work while walking at height safely. Then lastly, you have the suspension trauma. So it is very important for us to know. Most persons will tell you, oh, I have phobia for height. A lot of persons, you see them fall off a cliff, fall off a scaffold, fall off a platform, just because they'll tell you, oh, I have phobia. So immediately they are on that platform, and if you're using a mobile elevated walk platform, as it ascends, the next thing you see them jerk on the platform and they fall off when that platform is not well guarded or they are not in on their protective gears. Now, it is very important for us to take note of these risks that are prone while carrying out an activity. Now, what influences this? What influences this fall? What influences one falling off from height or even on the ground floor? Now, we said equipment not used or unavailable. Equipment not used or unavailable. Now you can see a man from the picture we have on the screen trying to carry out an activity with a very wrong approach. He's using the right equipment, but with the wrong approach. These are two different things. Using the right equipment the wrong way, or not even having that equipment available at all. Now, say no physical barriers or barricades or fencing, trying to ensure it cages, it protects you from height, or it protects you from assessing where falling objects will hit the person, or it protects you from any equipment that you come in collision with. Now, poor housekeeping. Now, poor housekeeping is one and the most general safety rule, or rather, good housekeeping on the opposite. Good housekeeping, which is the general and is one of the general safety rules and the most of it all. Good housekeeping. Now, what do we mean when we talk about good housekeeping? It's just like we all have our homes. We all have our homes. The way you step into your house and you want to ensure that everything is kept in the proper place. It is typically the same thing that is expected in the workplace. Now, basically, good housekeeping is keeping everything in the proper place, or the proper place for everything. Now, in this case, now it is the reverse. Poor housekeeping obviously will result to collisions. Poor housekeeping could result to a slip and fall. Poor housekeeping could also result to you tripping over, even or falling off a cliff or falling off from heights. So it is very important. It is very important. If a typical example of even a poor housekeeping, for example, if you're using a ladder, maybe you're using a metal ladder, and in the course of your work, you have greases on that ladder. Now, ideally, you're supposed to inspect that ladder. If you have any form of lubricant on the ladder, if it is a metal ladder, you clean it off, because if you don't, it can also make you slip and you fall. And that's as a result of poor housekeeping. So it is as simple as that. Now, inadequate or no exclusion zones, that is drop zones. We must ensure that we have an adequate or an exclusion zone. It's very important. Sometimes we see in some construction workplace, where you have the safety nets, and somebody will be asking, why are they covering this building with a green net? What are they using a net for? Is it to prevent people from seeing inside the place? Or is it to prevent people from not knowing what the plastering work or what the finishing work will look like? Actually, it is no. Basically, what that net is doing is to just ensuring that if there's any falling object, it will fall between the exclusion zone. It will not go beyond the radius of where that has been marked out or barricaded to restricting access, so you don't get yourself exposed to falling objects. All right. Now, inadequate or no supervision. Now, supervision is also a major requirement in carrying out an activities that there is every tendency of fall. You must ensure you have adequate supervision in the course of carrying out a job. Now, insufficient or no planning of hazard identification. Now, hazard identification is a major requirement before carrying out a task. Now, basically, what is hazard identification? Now, hazard identification is simply the ability to identify what could cause problem and put proactive controls in place. Now, like I said, hazard identification is simply the ability of identifying what could cause problem in the course of carrying out your job, and you put a proactive control measure in place. Now, why do I say proactive? Ensuring that that thing you have identified that could cause problem is being eliminated. When it is eliminated, obviously you shouldn't worry anymore about that thing. You can worry for any other thing, but the one you have identified that this will cause me problem, let me eliminate it. Where you cannot eliminate it, then you now go for other options to ensure that you carry out the job safely. Insufficient training for the task obviously will influence your tendency of fall, or will influence the tendency of sustaining injuries, even resulting to fatality. Incorrect protection, equipment choices, incorrect use of setup of equipment, unwillingness to change the way a task is carried out. Now, all these could influence your fall or sustaining injuries resulting to fatality. Now, what are the potential consequences? Like we all know. Now, serious life-threatening injury or death, permanent disability, now loss of income, impact on family, friends, work colleagues, which obviously has a ripple effect. Then prosecution of individuals and company. Now, there's one part I will always want to emphasize, which has to do with the impact on family, friends, and work colleagues. Sometimes we only just consider the number one, which is resulting in serious injury and death. Have you asked yourself that while going to work, if anything happens to you, what will be of your family? What will be of your friends? What will be of your loved ones? If these persons actually depend on you for their survival, what then happens to them? Now, the same way while carrying out your job, you should also be concerned about your colleagues. If you do a job in a wrong way, and it results to an incident resulting to injury or death of your colleague, what happens to their family? What happens to their friends who depend on them? Now, that's why we talk about the ripple effects. Obviously, for an employer, his number one concern is to ensure that you are safe. Number two, he doesn't want to lose money. So he'll be more concerned about his equipment and property. And most importantly, he doesn't want to spend money for any liability. He doesn't want to spend money for any government agency. He doesn't want to start running from one court to the other just because there is a civil liability from an unsafe act or unsafe behavior from any of that. So it is very important that we also take note of these potential consequences that might result if we don't carry our job safely while working at height. Now, the requirements, the law, what does the law talk about this activity? Now, we said the law, which, when we mean the law, it's applicable. Remember, Nigeria is a member body, is a member country to the ILO. So the International Labour Organization law applies to Nigeria civil law. Now, and the law requires that that's the law of Health and Safety at Work Act of 2015. It requires what we call primary duty of care of the employer to the employee. Now, the employer has primary duty of care to the employee. But you know, the most beautiful part of it is the law also says that the employee has the overall responsibility for his own health and safety. So why you think that your employer owes your health and safety, it is also required by you to ensure your own health and safety. It is also required by you to ensure your own health and safety. Now, what are the key steps to managing risk? Now, we've talked a lot about the risk. Now, what are the key steps to managing this risk that are being presented from our work activities? If we work on height or in an environment where there are indications of we're experiencing injuries resulting to work on height activities or fall from height activities or fall from fall due to collision by moving vehicles and all. Now, you say you must identify the scope of your work. Now, before engaging, first you need to know what is the scope of your work. You need to do a good analysis of your tasks before you engage. You need to do a good analysis of your tasks before you engage. You also identify the tasks to be done. You identify hazards associated with the tasks. Basically, what like I earlier said is referred to as a risk assessment. You can do what we call self-risk assessments. Why? There is an obligation that somebody is responsible in carrying out a risk assessment for your job, but you also have the responsibility to carry out what we call a self-risk assessment. Don't forget, it has to do with your own health and safety. So if a risk assessment was carried out, and in the course of carrying out your job, you identify other hazards, obviously it is your responsibility to raise them and ensure adequate controls are put in place before engaging in carrying out your task. Okay, you assess the initial risks that must have been identified. You develop controls. And basically, your controls is how to manage those risks that have been identified. Now, you also assess the residual risks. These residual risks are risks that cannot be eliminated from the job. You also need to assess them. Then you monitor and you review your control to ensure that it is continually effective. Okay, for our best, we'll talk about our control measure. We have from the less effective to the most effective. But the number one and the most effective control measure has to be eliminated. Now, when a hazard is identified, the best way of managing that hazard is to eliminate the hazard. You eliminate the hazard. Now, if the hazard cannot be eliminated because of the nature of the job, if I cannot eliminate it, probably I should isolate it. Let me isolate it from the reach of people, or let me isolate that hazard to ensure that where isolation cannot work, you can also minimize the hazard. Now, when we talk about working at height, basically there are jobs that you can also do from the ground level. Have you ever imagined somebody trying to fix a fan, and the person goes up there to fix the engine of the fan or the coil of the fan, and also wants to be fixing the blade up there? That is a very wrong work process approach. Now, when you identify the problem that, oh, if I'm to climb a ladder, if I'm to use an angle ladder to fix this fan, and I know that I will spend a longer time this coil and the blade, why not couple everything on the ground? And when you take it up, you're only going to hang it and connect the power supply cables only, rather than going there to start fixing the blade. So you also need to minimize working at height or reduce the amount of time you spend while working at height, amongst other control measures we have. Not forgetting, talk about the hierarchies of control. Like I said earlier, we have it from the most effective to the least effective. Now we talk about the elimination, which is the most effective. We talk about isolation or minimization, which is also which takes after the elimination. We talk about engineering control. We have the engineering control. Engineering control talks about redesigning the work activities to ensure that we minimize the level of harm to be exposed to. We also have what we call the administrative control. Now, administrative control, that's where you talk about, oh, let's give warning, let's give instructions, let's give signs for people to know that, okay, we are exposed to this kind of hazard. Let's provide training. Let's provide training. All these are administrative control. So these are least effective. It does not take away the hazards, but rather it's only to inform you that you have these hazards that exist. But like I said earlier, and for us to always take note of it, elimination is always the best in managing any hazard. Now, say for group control, you isolate multiple workers from the risk of falling. Now, examples include your rope access equipment, scaffolding, your edge protection, mechanical access plans, or safety mesh. Now, basically, these are control measures just to reduce the exposure and also to minimize the number of persons exposed to these hazards. Now, the personal controls should only be considered when group controls are not practicable. The personal controls should be considered when group controls are not practicable. Now, examples include your harness systems, temporary work platforms. Now, ladders and step ladders do not offer fall protection and should be the last form of work access equipment to be considered. Take that again. I said ladders and step ladders do not offer fall protection and should be the last form of work access equipment to be considered. Now, if you're working in a platform whereby you need to get to almost a 20 to 30 feet high, you can also use your rope access to get to that height. Now, because here we are telling you for that of your ladders or your step ladder, it doesn't provide. The only thing the ladder tells you is to ensure your 3-point contacts. The only protection you have on your ladder is ensuring your 3-point contacts. And your 3-point contacts would not prevent you if you need to fall. Now, basically, what's your 3-point contact? Is to ensure that you always have your 2 legs and at most 1 hand on the ladder, or you have your 2 hands and at most 1 leg on the ladder. That gives you your 3-point contact. So, but that will not prevent you if eventually you fall. For example, if you're tilting backward, maybe ascending with the load and you tend to tilt, that wouldn't protect you. But just for you to be aware, that's why we said ladders and step ladders do not offer a fall protection. Now, as equipment is identified, it is important to consider the following. Now, the working conditions. You are always expected to assess the working conditions. Now, distances to be negotiated for access and egress. While assessing the working condition, you must also look at your access and egress to ensure that you have adequate space for such. Now, distance and consequences of a fall, you must put that into consideration. Now, if you're walking, you are supposed to know what height are you walking at. And if you are to fall, at what level are you supposed to drop? So that will also guide you while mounting your fall arrest system. That will also guide you while choosing your harness and how to clamp your harness. You also talk about the duration and frequency of use. For how long will you be carrying out the activities? And if you are to fall, how long will your protective system protect you? Then there should also be an arrangement for rescue. What is the rescue plan in that job you want to carry out if an incident is to occur? That must be put into consideration as a best practice. Then additional risks posed by the installation and removal of work equipment. That must also be considered. Any additional risks that will be posed by either installation or removal of your work equipment. Okay, well, so yeah, I'll just briefly go through the inspection frequencies of equipment. Now, it is very important that we must inspect our safety equipment frequently. It is also required by the international standard. Now, for the items, so the personal equipment, including your harness, your lanyards, connectors, fall arrest devices, including common use devices. Now, the frequency for inspection, we say before and after each use. So, use particular lanyard of your fall arrest system. You ensure you inspect it before using it and also after usage to ensure you don't have any failure, any cracks or broken part of it. Now, by a height safety operator, or if not competent, by another competent person. Now, obviously, your safety equipment is supposed to be inspected by a specialist and also approved to be safe for use. Now, you don't do that out of your volition. It is required by the law that your equipment, before using them or by your inspection frequency, must be inspected by a specialist and be certified before using them. And we say this same equipment should also be inspected officially by a specialist at most 6 months or 6 months, within 6 months. So at every 6 months, you are supposed to do an official inspection and certification. Now, and this should be done by a height safety equipment inspector. We also have the anchorages, which is drilled in type or attached to a timber frames, or anchorages or other types using to clamp your harness. Now, we said it should be inspected every 12 months. It should be inspected 12 monthly and as recommended by manufacturer to a maximum of 5 years. So what that means, from the manufacturer's instructions, you also need to know the lifespan of that. You also need to inspect the absence of such recommendation. If you don't have such, you also need to do that inspection to ensure that you also know the duration or the lifespan of that equipment. And it should be carried out by a height safety equipment inspector. Now, for your fall arrest devices, which is a full service, as recommended by the manufacturer, to be maximum of 5 years for the lifespan, while you must inspect it at least in 12 months service in the absence of such recommended or such recommendation, and also must be carried out by a height safety equipment inspector. Now, while you do this inspection, obviously it must be certified. For horizontal and vertical lifelines, for steel rope or rail, as recommended by the manufacturer, to a maximum of 5 years, and also annually it should be carried out that inspection if it is not recommended, and also by a safety equipment inspector. Your horizontal and vertical lifelines, fiber ropes and web, it should be inspected 6 months, so that's twice a year, and also by a safety equipment inspector. Then all items that have been stressed as a result of a fall, you check manufacturer specification and you take in to be checked by a height safety inspector. So basically, this talks about your inspection frequencies of your work at height equipment or your harnesses. Now, for training, that has to do with your competencies and limitation. Now, your harness work, all harness work requires training and competence. Untrained personnel should be inducted and supervised by a qualified person. Now, we cannot overemphasize on training when it comes to a work at height activity. Now, there is one slogan we always use in our organization. We say, if you don't train them, don't blame them. So you don't expect anybody coming to carry out a work at height activity in your environment to know. The responsibility lies on the management to ensure that persons who work or carry out work in their environment must be trained. In the case where such is not available, as an individual, to ensure your own health and safety, please seek for training personally. There are people who will go out of their will to train themselves, because it has to do with your own health and safety, not just on the knowledge aspect, but for the sake of your own health and safety. Now, other training considerations, you have your rope access training, scaffolding training, your mechanical access plant training, and also training on rescue. It is very important that you acquire this training. Now, for dropped object management, primarily 2 lanyards, 100% hook on or hard barrier platforms for drops protection. Now, rated self-closing 2 bags to transport tools or equipment upstairs. Now, storage bins to hold tools or equipment. Now, high standard of housekeeping, like we see, like the image we have there. Somebody walking on the ground, but have a falling spanner on his head. The question would not be, was he walking at height? No. Or has he suffered from injury resulting from work at height? Yes. And we said to prevent this, the best way, if you are working at height and you're working with hand tools, that you should have your bags, call it a 2 bags, that is being clamped on your waist for you to be able to have all your working tools well secured. Don't forget, that still brings us back to, we say, the high standard of housekeeping, ensuring housekeeping. Remember the definition I used earlier. We say good housekeeping is keeping everything in the proper place, or the proper place for everything. Now, why our secondary management look at hard barrier exclusion zones, trying to prevent people from having access to where they could be exposed to falls from height. Designated drop zones for lifting and scaffolding. Now, hard barrier protection over walkways, no-go zone areas. So never stand under suspended loads. It's against a manual handling or a work at height or lifting equipment safety, where you see somebody transporting something from height or an equipment transporting something from height and you stand under. Even as a banksman, you don't stand under a suspended load. Obviously, you are exposed to a fall from height. Our exclusion zones, we say you identify all possible simultaneous operations above and or below work area. Now, if there is a potential for objects to fall from heights, you set up an exclusion zone to keep other people out of that area. Very important. Now, the radius of the exclusion zone should equal 33% of the height from directly below or above the work area. Now, this mathematics is telling you that, okay, if you're carrying out any activity at height, 33% of the height should be where you should take as your radius to place your barrication, to place your scotch tape, just to exclude access or to restrict access for people coming around where they're exposed to a fall from height. Now, it is very important to take note of this. You know, sometimes, just like when you see in a construction workplace, and they'll tell you restrict access, qualified personnel only, or only those carrying out that job is allowed to access that workplace. We refer to such as an exclusion zone, or even when we carry out our drop zone, where we go to unbin our trash, unbin our debris that must have been excavated from the work area. We also have to exclude that site from access by pedestrians. Now, we also need to determine how tools and equipment will be lifted to height during job planning stages. Very important. That should be determined before the job commences. This must be well determined and must be handled by qualified personnel. Now, under other considerations, like we said earlier, competent personnel must be considered. Competent personnel must be considered while carrying out the job. Now, rated lifting equipment, you must definitely ensure you use the right equipment for the job, and they must be rated for the particular task that will be carried out. Now, area below lift, and also don't overload. Also do not overload. Our emergency situations, we say sudden medical event, trip or slip causing a worker to fall and be suspended in a harness. Like we said, you must always plan your rescue. You must always have a plan for your rescue. Now, it requires rescue retrieval within minutes to prevent suspension trauma. You must plan your rescue before commencing the job. As much as you have your fall arrest system in place, obviously there's what we call a suspension trauma. So you must plan the rescue on time. So when such happens, you know that you'll be able to rescue the personnel that must have fell from height, but is suspended using the harness. Now, working at height rescue plan, now the key element, you look at your JSA. Basically, what's your JSA? Your job safety analysis. Like I said, that must come first. You must plan that ahead of time. Pre-planning. Now, communications, either via verbal or radio, there must always be a medium of communication to ensure that you get a quick response. Now, your rescue plan discussed prior to your work starting, so everybody is aware. In the case of an emergency, what to do, who does what, at when, and who communicates and who carries out the rescue. That must have been discussed, and everybody knows their responsibility. Now, you plan reviewed throughout the job. Now, your equipment, your kits on site, competent personnel, that talks about standard requirement, then prevention controls. Prevention controls in the case where you have a suspension trauma strap that has to do with your harness. So all of this must have been discussed and planned ahead of time, not when it has occurred. It is something that must be planned before the commencement of your activity. Okay, yeah, we have a case study, just one or two scenarios. We say working at height with no harness, scissors lift used for steel framing inspection, individual identified unsecured bolts, individual climbed out of an elevated work platform without harness. Now, potential for a 10 meters fall onto concrete. Now, all these are identified potential falls. Now, when you see a scenario like this, now these are areas you raise concern and ensure that the adequate precautions are put in place immediately. Also, we have ground support workers need to be trained and also assessed as competent. Now, scaffold team erecting a scaffold, ground support worker rated 3-meter scaffold ledger against scaffold in readiness to pass up to scaffolders. Now, scaffolder instead requested more scaffold clips. Now, second ground support person walked over to collect scaffold clips. As ground support person leant over to pick up clips, scaffold ledger slid over the slide ways. Now, scaffold ledger hit worker's hip, causing bruising. Now, this is just a scenario, just for us to know how you can also suffer other injuries even while you are not on height. While trying to set up your work at height equipment, you are also exposed to other injuries. All right, in conclusion, now the falls from height can occur anywhere, even on the ground. Now, work at height is the most common cause of workplace deaths. Now, carry out risk assessment and ensure adequate control measure before engaging in any work at height activities. Always use your PPE and harness at all times while working. Ensure you are trained to do the job, and when in doubt, ask your supervisor. Remember, think safety, act safely, and your safety will be guaranteed. Thank you. Any question?
Thank you so much, Engineer Nuate. You've just done a great justice to this topic. We're glad to have you. Thank you so much. All right, dear members, we are very sorry that the network issues is something else. We couldn't resolve the chat issue. So like you can drop your questions in our WhatsApp group, but we're going to take voice questions apart from chats. Please, others can use the group WhatsApp chat platform to drop your question. So we'd like to take questions. We've taken a little bit of your time, but we'll take like 4 to 5 questions. Okay, I saw some persons that raise up their hands. Please, others, we can use the chat room so I can read out the questions from there. Also, you can use our WhatsApp group to drop your questions. But we promise in the next segment of the training, this will be resolved. Okay, I'm seeing V. Okay, we're going to take some questions now. Victor, Mr. Victor, please, you raised up your hand. You can unmute and ask your question. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Victor. Okay, while we are waiting for Mr. Victor, Mr. Patrick. Mr. Patrick. Hello, can anyone hear me at all? Please, if you have a question for the trainer, you can unmute and ask your question. Or you can as well drop the question on our WhatsApp group. I'll read it out.
Okay, good evening.
Okay.
Good
evening, sir. Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Yes, I don't think I have a question for now. I don't have a question for now. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get your question.
I think I don't have a question for
Hello?
now. Thank you. Hello, sir.
Hello. Yeah, your voice is a bit slow.
Hello, okay. I do guys just stay for this.
Hello, I don't know if I've been taken out of the meeting. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're still in the meeting. I think we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, did you hear his question? Because I didn't hear what he said.
I think he was just trying to say he enjoyed the class and all that. Not this question.
Oh, okay. Okay. So are we trying to say that the training was clear enough? We all our concerns were actually answered during the course of the training. I want to hear those questions that have been bothering you. I want to hear them so that it to be addressed.
There are many hands up, so just let those. I think I can see Okoro Wazigbe there and the rest.
Mr. Victor, Mr. Patrick. Please, you can unmute. Mr. David, I'm seeing so many hands up. And you're free to unmute and ask your questions, even if I didn't call you.
Hello. What I think is, I think those hands, they are for attendance. I think they think that the hands are for attendance. That's what I think. That's why those hands are raised up. If you can hear me, so it's not like they have.
Okay. A question. Yeah. So are we saying that we don't have a question?
Okay, let me come in here. My name is Raphael. This question goes to Faith. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, so Mr. Faith, what I just want to ask is that I do enjoy your presentation, and it's quite elaborate. You touched every aspect of safety at height, and also went as far as letting us know it's not all about working at height, those working on land. also any little elevation, you can still fall. Now, my question is this. Do you or your organization do training for usher online, or you must physically attend usher trainings if your organization go straight? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. We are not OSHA certified, or rather OSHA accredited. We have a different accreditation. Now we run training online, and we also do physical training. Now, if it is a group maybe from an organization, and you want an in-house training, we also provide such services. But if it is an individual and you want an online training, we schedule you with other delegates who will have scheduled classroom training. Or we also schedule you with our online training. For our online training is a self-study portal where you log in at your own time, where you have 30 days access to the platform. And the training is not a pre-recorded class, or it is, you have the materials and you have a video to aid your study for the online training. But for the classroom, it's a real-time training. And like I said, it will be conducted as a group, for a group of persons from an organization, either an in-house for them, or they come down to our facility for the training. Thank you. Okay, so you can also check our website. That's www.didumconsult.com. didumconsult.com. If you wish to reach out to me personally, I think from the organizers, you can get the contact. Or if it's permitted from the organizers, I can also give a contact number to call for a proposed training.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Raf, I hope he covered your question. He answered it to your desire. Can I proceed with the next question, sir, or you have another question to ask?
I'm okay. Thank you.
Oh, all right, thank you so much, sir. Okay, I have a question from a technician here. He said, as a rope access technician, how will you tell a supervisor that you are not comfortable with an anchor point in order not to get him offended?
Okay, I will talk from, I'll answer from three perspectives. One, his anger has nothing, or is him being offended.
No, sorry, sir. Okay, I hope you heard. He said anchor points. Okay, in order not for him to get, okay.
Yes, it has to do with relationship between the supervisor and the field marshals. Now, his countenance, or how he perceives your observation shouldn't be your problem. Your problem is you want to ensure your health and safety. That is your number one priority. So whatsoever that would threaten your health and safety should be your number one responsibility. So bringing such observation to his knowledge, rather, should be a plus. It should be a plus. The supervisor is supposed to give you a handshake, because you have just helped him save his own job. Because as a supervisor on site, and there is a failure from an anchor point, it means the supervisor has not done the due diligence before he asked you to engage. It is the responsibility of the supervisor to ensure that the workplace is safe, the equipment is safe after installation, to ensure that each of the anchor points, he must have done a second check before he will ask you to engage and carry out your activity. So if the supervisor picks offense that you call his attention to such, then I think that supervisor shouldn't be on that site. Or rather, he requires some, let's say, need a safety reorientation again. And such can be brought up with your management. But like I said earlier, your number one responsibility is to ensure your health and safety. Nobody should force you or make you endanger your life. Nobody. And by law, no company will sack you if you raise such concern that, oh, because you refuse to do this job because it is an unsafe act, that you will be dropped. Such organization can face civil liability.
Wow. Thank you so much. Mr. David.
Far away from looking at it from the legal aspect. Okay, sorry. So far away from looking at it from the legal aspect, always try to talk to your supervisor that, please, sir, this has to do with health and safety.
Hello?
And most importantly, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You can proceed.
All right. Now, most importantly, don't forget, there is what we call as a name we use for this. I'm trying to remember the word for it. The image of the company is at stake. The image of the company is at stake, and nobody wants his company to be known for negativity. So, ensuring that the place is safe, it's a responsibility by management and, in extension, the supervisors. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Engineer Akpan, it seems you want to say, I saw your hand up. Hello. I think, Mr. David, I hope your question is being answered. So your safety first is the most important, not how your supervisor feels. So, but you can still communicate the information in a very polite and respectful manner. That could actually not make him feel offended. But your safety first. Your life matters most. So, Engineer Akpan, you want to say something?
All right.
Okay. Please, there is a form.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Feedback form.
Yes,
you can go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Noati, thank you very much for your training, explicit. And your training covered most of the key points, the basic things to know while working on. Oh shit, network. Okay, so I wanted to ask, yeah, my name.
Okay, it seems you're having network issues, but I saw a question. Emmanuel is asking if you do first aid training. Do you do first aid training?
Yes, thank you so much, Engineer Emmanuel. Yes, we do first aid training.
Okay, so it means yes,
Okay,
yes, engineer. I say, okay. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for your time and your breakdown analysis. It was an awesome one, and it was very clear even to a layman. So we appreciate you. Okay, Engineer Kent Bob Emmanuel, you want to ask a question? Please, let's ensure to fill the feedback form.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, I can.
Loud and clear.
All right. My question goes to Mr. Faith. Earlier, the first, Mr. Raphael asked a question. If your company is OSHA certified for working at heights training, you said no. My question is your company, is he a RATA member company?
Sorry, your question is
your company
I don't think I got the last
RATA member company?
ARA what? Sorry, I didn't get that last part.
It's a company, an ARATA member company.
Okay, ARATA. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No. Okay. So for the sake of time, I will just maybe just go through a couple of our accreditations. Now, we are not a member company. We're not OSHA certified company. These are separate certification company. Now, we are Quality, Health, Safety, Environment Institute, QHSEI, which is called Quality, Health, Environment. That's the Quality, Health, Safety, Environment Institute. We're also certified by Blue Star Management Systems. We're also certified by QMSAI, which is Quality Management Systems Auditors Institute. So these are our accreditations. So we don't, OSHA is basically on, they offer the US-based certification courses, but we offer more of the UK-based certification courses, or rather we work with UK syllabus and standard.
All right, Mr. Faith.
Yes, sir.
My understanding about the system, I don't really want to overemphasize more on it because we don't really have much time. But as a member company or as an instructor, I would rather want to tell the house that our system trains you on 3 things. First, we emphasize more on making you understand the reason why you need the training. Because going to work at IT is not the best place. It will never be the best place for anyone to work, right? So that is why we come up with 3 major systems, which has to do with, we try to prevent, we try to avoid, and the last one is the mitigation part of it. And why we consider those 3 in working at height, not just working at height, at the same time, work restraint and work positioning. We make you understand the basic. I don't know, recently, the training centers don't really go down to details.
Hello,
because
sir.
we lack instructors. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, hello, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know, maybe you can still, maybe in our next training section, you can still come explicit on this, your explanation. But I don't know if you joined from the beginning. You actually explained a lot. And yeah.
I did.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate the explanation, but because of time, I don't know if you permit me that we'll move to the next agenda. Maybe next training can still, maybe fine, we'll have room for. Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah, we are trying to, our time. Okay, so that won't keep us waiting. It's already 9 o'clock and we supposed to stop at 9, and we still have like 2 more segments before we proceed. Please, there's a feedback form on the chat. I don't know if we can access it since we have issues with our chat room, but I think you can be able to click on the form. Please, I will need confirmation that you can click on that link and you can fill the form. So that if it's not possible, let's look for alternative means of sending the link to you.
We can't say it.
You can't see it from the chat. You can't see my chat.
No.
The chat room is not even open.
No. You can't say the chat. Maybe you drop it on the group, on our WhatsApp group.
We wouldn't want to do WhatsApp group because those that did not attend is likely to click on the link. That's why I wanted to. So
I have a suggestion.
Okay, sir. Proceed.
Can we drop our email or make comments on our WhatsApp group so you can DM it, DM the link
to the mail.
Yeah, either a mail.
Okay, that's
okay. Yes, VP. Okay, I want to make a suggestion. Just drop the link, no problem. I have all the names of those that attended, so it's not an issue. So just drop the link for them.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay.
So please let's move to the next.
Okay, all right. I'll drop the link on the WhatsApp group. So those that attend should quickly. We are giving a grace of. We are going to keep it for like 10 to 20 minutes. So after that, we'll delete it, so that those that didn't attend will not come back and start seeing it. So once we drop it now, please kindly fill up the form immediately without wasting time. Thank you so much. Okay, I would like to proceed to the next agenda, which is closing remark by our amiable BOT chairman, Mr. Raphael Eze. Please, sir, the floor is open for you, sir.
What do you will follow?
Hello? Engineer Raphael, is he still on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Please, closing remarks, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. It's really, really nice having everybody around. I mean, it's not easy for each and every one of us to have this time
please mute
to attend.
Apologies.
I also want to give a big thanks to Faith for giving us this presentation. I mean, it's has enlightened most of us. Although some of us are into the work at height job, but it has given us that third eye view, or when I say an ego eye view. And also, each and every one of us, thank you for being part of this. As I said earlier, it's not easy leaving everything that you want to do to attend this. Thank you very much, and we hope to get more of this seminar in the future. Thank you, and God bless.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for making our time to join us. Thank you to everyone here. We really appreciate you all. So we'd like, as we started with prayer, we want to also end with prayer. So I would like to invite Mr. Kentebe. Please, can you lead us in closing prayer, please? Mr. Ken?
Right. Yeah, go. I'm here. So I don't really know how to pray that much, but but it's fine. All right. May the Almighty God bless and guide each and every one of us as we create that time to be a part of this process. God will continue to elevate each and every one of us, elevate our household, bless the work in our hands, guide and protect our family. Some of us that have led that is far away from them, because I'm not home, I'm offshore at the moment. And I pray that God keep our family in his holy hands and bless our work. All this we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
You shall say you.
See, now, pastor, now you're a pastor. What are you talking?
Pastor Kentebe.
Because I be pray now, sermon you want release for also. Kentebe.
That's wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
How are you?
I'm seeing my amiable BOT.
Good evening, everyone.
Mr. Wonderful technicians, we are glad to have you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Kentebe, your prayer is going to really, really work. if you don't pray and now pray for us, I mean, it's going to work. Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
You're all
Amen.
welcome.
Thank you, sir.
You're all welcome. Thank you so much. Please, I've dropped the feedback form on the WhatsApp